board that we had issues we had to deal with in executive session, so I apologize for our tardiness, and we're ready to get started. Okay, the meeting is called to order. The regular monthly board meeting of the Ambridge Area School District Board of Directors on Wednesday, January 15, 2020 is now called to order. Can we have the flag salute? Please rise. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is being recorded for district purposes. It is or may be published in part or in its entirety on the district's website without the express permission of meeting participants. The opinions expressed by any member of the public do not necessarily reflect the view or opinion of the Ambridge Area School District Board of School Directors or the Ambridge Area School District and are solely that of the speaker. The Ambridge Area School District Board of School Directors hereby expressly disclaims any and all responsibility or liability for any false, defamatory, or slanderous statements expressed by the speaker. Can I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Angus?
Here.
Mr. Campbell?
Here.
Ms. Gill? Here. Mrs. Kehoe?
Here.
Mrs. Mylan?
Here.
Ms. Pettigo?
Here.
Ms. Trimber?
Here.
Mrs. Fisher?
Here.
8 present.
Can I have the sunshine law, please?
Yes. Section 708 of the Sunshine Law permits agencies to hold executive sessions to discuss employment and personnel matters, labor relations, and arbitration matters, purchase or lease of real estate up to the time an option or agreement is obtained, litigation or potential litigation, legal matters subject to attorney-client privilege, and other agency business which, if discussed in public, would violate lawful privilege or would violate confidentiality laws. The Board of School Directors held an executive session on Wednesday, January 8th and Wednesday, January 15th to discuss employment and personnel matters, salary schedule and labor relations, matters subject to attorney-client privilege, and litigation matters.
Thank you. Any correspondence this evening?
No correspondence.
Okay. A motion to accept or correct the minutes of the December 4th reorganization meeting, December 4th meet and discuss, non-voting meeting, December 11th board meeting.
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. A motion to accept the treasurer's report dated November 2019 and December 2019. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion.
I
Motion to
apologize.
accept.
I made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Can I have a motion to add the following personnel item number 10 to the agenda this evening? School Board Director. It is recommended to appoint a qualified elector of the district to fill the present School Board Director vacancy. I have a motion on the floor.
A motion to accept that we will move forward to speak to candidates today and hear from candidates.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. I could just say it right. The board president's report. I have nothing to report this evening. We have some recognition presentations this evening.
Thank you, Mrs. Fisher.
Thank you, Dr. Walter.
I'm recognizing 3 of our elementary students. We had a contest, an art contest for Christmas cards, and one of the cards is sent on behalf of the board and administration to about 200 local partnerships, businesses, police, and then the other card I send to all of our employees internally. And we selected 3 this year. Our runner-up is Alina Strong, and she is in Mrs. McKenzie's 3rd grade class, and this was her Christmas card. Is she here, Alina? Is she here? And we're going to go around and shake everybody's hand. Nice job. Nice job. So our second artist is Alice Smedley. She is a second grade student at State Street, and this was her card. Congratulations. You're going to go shake everybody's hand, and then I'll give you this when you come back around, okay? And here's what she gets. She gets a framed copy of it. Oh, you guys did this. What card did you get? Second grade. Great card. It's better than graduation. There you go, honey. Good job, and thank you. And our last artist is Morgan Hartman, and she is in 4th grade at Economy, and this is Morgan's card. Congratulations. Good job. Go shake everybody's hand. Sorry, Mike.
I love the blue background.
Thank you so much.
We also have a few other recognitions. This evening, I'm very proud to and honored that I will get to present them. Jason Sims, are you here? Your recommendation into the U.S. Club Soccer ID2 training camp. Congratulations and best wishes on your next adventure. We're very proud of you.
Good job.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Terry.
Angelina Glover. Excuse me, I apologize. It is Brad. Okay, it wasn't Tyler. I apologize. Angelina, your dedication and participation in the Afro-Academic, Cultural, Technological, and Scientific Olympics ACSO program is very impressive.
Congratulations.
Okay, thank you. Jaden Hubbard could not be there this evening, I believe. So Jaden participated and placed in the Martin Luther King oratorical contest. So we will get her certificate, and we thank her for all of her hard work.
All right, last week there was a request by the board members to give you a little bit of an update on our financial status for the current year. So we're going to try to go over the financial statements, which you received a bound copy tonight. They just arrived in my office today. I think you got the electronic copies, and the auditor was here in December to go over those. We'll talk about the current year budget and then the timeline for preparing the budget for next school year. These are the audited numbers that came down for the revenues. You can see that the total revenues were within 0.5% of what we projected. They were slightly under what we projected. The majority of that was a result of federal access money that we did not receive that we were anticipating. One of the other things that was a concern for us is that PDE did not deliver all the transportation subsidy that they initially proposed in their budget. I think every district across the state didn't receive a certain portion of the transportation subsidy. And then we also are a little bit of concern because the Ambridge collection rate this past year was 85%, which is a little bit lower than we've seen in past years. And it's also trending about that for this year as well. So we're keeping our eye on that. We'll probably make some adjustments in the budgets moving forward if that's what the trend continues to be. Audited expenditures for last year. Again, this was the big problem. A $1.3 million deficit in what we anticipated. It was still within 2.6% of what we anticipated for the budget. But the bulk of that 1.3 million, 1.12 million of it was due to charter school tuition increases. Everyone's aware that PD changed how they funded charter schools. The formula went from a fixed amount that PDE had determined back to the PD 363 format. We've talked about it in our budget workshops and other things. So that created a huge increase in the amount of tuition costs that we had for the district. It continues this year as well. We're also seeing a shift in charter schools from regular ed students, shifting them to special ed students, which is also putting an increased strain on our budget. The other $200,000 was mainly due to substitution costs. Let me get back there. And then we had slightly higher than anticipated refunds from prior year expenditures. Again, that was mostly related to charter school refunds. Questions, anything? If you have questions along the way, just feel free to ask me.
Doug, I have a question about the taxes.
Sure.
It's my understanding that the local tax collecting went from being staggered payments throughout the year to more rapid payments at the beginning of the year. And I've been contacted by several citizens in the community saying that that has greatly impacted
I have as well.
them.
That's the installments.
Yes.
If you elect to do installments, you're now required to make 3 equal month payments in succession, where before it was stretched out to, I believe, February.
Okay, so where did that mandate come from?
That was not a mandate. That was something that was presented to the school board a couple years ago, I believe in March, and they elected to make a change in the installment process.
So I know in Ambridge in particular, we have a large number of folks who are on fixed income, Social Security, et cetera. And you just can't. They're having a very difficult time with that. And one of the points of pride of Ambridge is that we're a community and a strong-based community. And I think, I'm going to say here, I think as a board we need to relook at that. When I have people contacting me and telling me that they're losing their house because they can't do these payments up front. So I think that that's something that we definitely need to look at as a board collectively.
We can talk about it, but one of the inherent problems with stretching those out beyond the end of the year is that you are now in a delinquent period and you're allowing people to pay their taxes over a much longer period without a penalty, while other people that did not do an installment have to pay penalty and interest. So there's an inequity that happens there. So we can talk about it.
Equity interest, though, of people losing their homes and us not getting the money at all. So I think we need to look.
We can look at it again. It's no problem.
I've had residents reach out to me too in regards to this concern, so I definitely feel like it's something as a board we need to discuss. So.
Okay. Here are the actual numbers for last year. I think that Mrs. Trimber mentioned the $1.8 million deficit. That's the result of the revenues less the expenditures for last year. Your beginning fund balance when you started last year was about $2.7 million. It's slightly under $1 million currently.
Does anyone in the audience have any questions from the public? Because I know that there's been several people who have reached out to me in regards to questions in regards to the budget. So I just want to make sure that we're giving them that opportunity in regards to speak if they have a question.
Anyone can always send me a question too if you have questions. Happy to answer. Fund balance. This is a historical picture of your fund balance. The dark bars in here represent total expenditures. The yellow bars, the lighter bars, represent the amount in your fund balance, and the line represents the percentage of the fund balance to your total expenditures. You really want that percentage to fall somewhere in this 4 to 8% range typically to be healthy, so we're a little bit below that. We were below that several years ago. That was built up rather large at one point, and that was the result of a lot of refundings you did with bond issues that you had outstanding. Wasn't really a result of anything else. And then over time, we have now started to see that decline. Our goal now in the next few years is to build that back up into that 4 to 8% range. Okay. The current budget is balanced at $50,252,228. Again, I mentioned that we're still seeing that shift of special ed students in charter schools. We have already made about a $1.8 million adjustment in the current budget to cover those costs because we do not want to see another deficit in our budget or spending for next year. So those changes have already been shifted within the budget. But we also, in the process of that, have eliminated a lot of the maintenance projects, the purchase of equipment. We've realigned some salaries and benefits to cover that $1.8 million deficit. Other things we're doing for cost containment. In the last couple of years, the board and the unions have agreed to move to the ASHIC benefits, which is the Allegheny County School Health Insurance Consortium. That has helped stabilize our rates. We haven't seen rate increases above 2% for the last several years. We are proceeding with that energy savings project as a way to fund some of those capital projects without impacting your budget. We have recently approved the sale of delinquent tax liens to improve our cash position. We are working with the Economy Water Authority to revise our billing methodology. We're hoping to see a savings of about $40,000 in that area. We initiated a demand response program recently. It's currently generated so far for the district about $15,000. We're revising our use of facility policies to get them in line with other districts. We are increasing the substitute rate, I believe, this evening, hopefully to reduce the number of class coverages we have to pay so we can get more subs. And then we also recently had a collection on past and current due amounts for the naming rights for the facilities over here, the field house. So we did collect on those past amounts. I know we had some discussion in the past about that. So everything is current. This is the timeline for next year's budget under Act 1. Which is the overriding law that designates when deadlines have to be submitted to PDE for your budget. This board approved a resolution not to exceed the index in December. The index happens to be 3.5% for next year, which means that you can't increase your tax millage rate higher than 3.5% for next year. That was submitted by, that was due by January 9th. That was submitted before Christmas since you approved it. That means that the board can follow the traditional format to prepare its budget. So the proposed final budget will be approved in May, final budget by June 30th. The district's timeline, we send out spreadsheets to our departments and our grade levels and different academic departments in November. Those spreadsheets were due back to us by December 20th. We're currently working on the personnel budget. That should be finished by the end of next week. We'll have a preliminary draft to you probably by mid-February, but please know that every first draft of this budget, last year's budget was out by almost $5 million. So please don't panic when you see the first draft because there's still a ton of unknowns we don't know in February. We don't know what the insurance rates are going to be. We don't know what kind of, you have a teacher's contract that's due that's up at the end of this year, so we don't have numbers for that. So those are big numbers that will impact your budget. So there are a lot of unknowns that have to be cleared up throughout the spring. Budget workshops will be conducted in March and April with this board. Again, final budget approved, or final proposed budget in May, final budget in June. Questions? Just so you know a little bit about how we've changed the budget process since I've been here. We actually get into a lot of detail within the departments and the buildings. Their spreadsheets lay out every item they're purchasing. You never see that detail because it takes hours to go through it. But you will see whatever level you want to see. We try to give you at more along the major categories of where the expenditures are for your discussion purposes. But there's a voluminous amount of work that goes into building those spreadsheets. We don't just make assumptions. Everyone has to justify everything that gets put into the budget now. So it is quite time consuming.
I was just going to mention that the budget workshops that we've conducted in the past 2 years have been open to the public, so it's not
They're
just
always
for
open
the
to the
benefit of
public.
the board, it's for the benefit of all of our stakeholders. And it's important
Yeah, and they're advertised, they're published, the public is welcome to attend. We give the public opportunities to ask questions at those workshops. A lot of people that have come to them offer some really nice suggestions as well. So we are always open for ideas and suggestions on how we can generate more revenue or cut different expenditures. And the board's very open to it as well.
Mr. McCausland, I have
Yeah.
a question. Grace
Sure.
Bona, Harmony Township. Go back a slide, please. Okay, under unknowns, the last one there, charter enrollments, and I think it's a question for the board. I don't think it's a big secret right now. The Quigley's enrollment is really hurting, and they're thinking about closing. And if that happens, through the rumor mill, they're talking about Baden Academy possibly putting in for a middle school charter there. How are we going to combat that? How does that work into the budget? How are we going to figure this out? That's your question from me to you all.
I think it's a good question, and I think we have to think about what the implications and the impact of that are going to be and how we're going to deal with that. It's probably the #1 issue facing this district right now, is how we get charter school costs under control.
Absolutely.
Mr. McCausland, just as a refresher, how much total goes out to charter schools?
That's my question.
There's between $7 and $8 million goes out annually to charter schools.
And what is the cost per student, Mr. McCausland?
For a regular ed student this year, it's about 14 or 15,000. For a special ed student, it's almost 28,000.
Thank you.
5% of the regular ed students were identified special ed after they were there.
Oh, really? Thank you.
Anybody else?
So we had no way of anticipating that, in other words, correct?
No. We have no control over that.
I just have a question, because I've talked to a couple of people that do have children in the charter schools, and they stated that the school district isn't charged a lot of money, that the charter schools then turn around and send it back to Ambridge. Is that true? Can you clarify? I'm being honest.
No, no.
And that's a out there, so I'm asking for clarification.
We are charged for every student that attends a charter school, and no refunds come back. It used to be that we would get some subsidy refund from the state, but I believe that's been 4 or 5, maybe longer than that, 6 years, where they stopped giving us subsidy for kids going to charter schools.
How about transportation to the charters?
We provide the transportation for the charter school kids.
I want to clarify
Yeah,
for everybody
yeah.
here.
We transport.
I have a question. When you do the revenues on here, what's the percentage rate that we use for collection?
We've been using 92%.
Thank you.
And has that been consistent for the other areas?
It has,
other
it
than
has, and
Ambridge?
some of them have been slightly above that. I think when I first came, they were being extremely conservative with the collection rate. I think you were seeing some increases in your fund balance because you were so conservative with your revenues that you were coming in much higher. We've obviously got much more aggressive with our revenues. If we can get within 0.5% one way or the other, we're getting pretty close. But again, those lower collection rates for Ambridge concern me a little. But we also have to always look at, is there fraud going on? But the auditors do that now. We audit those tax collectors since you've had that situation before I got here. But there have been no findings with the tax collectors whatsoever. So they're doing a good job from that standpoint. And we have a pretty good relationship with our tax collectors, so.
And
I have another, I don't know, Mrs. DeBona, would you be able to talk a little about our cyber program? I thought, we have a lot of people in the audience tonight, so can you, or I don't know if
can. I could say something about it.
I didn't see Mrs. Briola here, so I
Miss
didn't-
Briola is not here this
Right.
evening. Her son had a basketball game. What we did, actually, Mr. King probably would be more well-versed at this, but I did have the pleasure of working in the cyber program several years ago. It's great for our students as far as having an in-house, the ability in-house to address things like credit recovery, address things like students that can't be in a normal classroom situation due to anxiety, whatever else may be the case for them. it's nice that the money stays in-house and we service our students. What people don't realize is when they go to a, our cyber school versus PA Cyber or whatever it may be, those students that are here with us, whether they're physically in the building or at their homes, are still guaranteed and given all of the services that any of our students have here in the district. And that is one thing that's very important. They need some of these services, some of these kids. So these parents that are sending their kids elsewhere are actually making a big mistake because they are not receiving the services that they will need in order to be successful in life.
I'm going to piggyback on that because our numbers in our cyber school have increased. And we also, since Dr. Myford has been here, we've been able to figure out a way to service our special ed students if it's a partial day or a full day because of the services that we provide. And we also have a teacher here after school, so those special ed kids can get additional support if they so choose to do cyber school for a while. So, and we have a lot more middle school kids in the program than we did, which now we need to get more teachers to support that. But it's much better than the middle now. So they're working hard on the cyber school.
Right, and one more thing I would like to add to that. So not only is it kids that need a different facility, it sometimes is also some of my better or honors students that are in the room. I don't know if any of you participate in it, but it's also an outlet to take an additional course that would maybe not be offered here. You could take an AP course that maybe we don't offer, and therefore they can get college credit from doing that. So it services both ends and the middles. So it's a very, very good program. I certainly think that we made the right decision years ago when we put that in, and I'm pleased that we are seeing it grow. It helps many kids that normally wouldn't get the help they need and maybe wouldn't be coming to school, would add to our graduation dropout rate. It does a lot more than what just the surface of any PA Cyber would do or any other cyber school outside of the district would do.
Thanks, Mrs. Stigana, for that too. Mr. King, you have anything you want to add to that?
When we started the program, what we did, it was actually in a collaborative thing with the AAEA. Grace was actually involved with it. She's one of the original teachers of record. And what we did, we got a list of all the charter school students, and then we started calling them, getting them to come back so the program would eventually pay for itself. Well, it paid for itself in about a month because we ended up making about $300,000. And then I think during that year, we made about $500,000. We pulled $500,000 worth of students back. And now it's done a little differently because it's expanded, become more advanced than when we started it. But right now we have about 50 students, and some of them are taking one class and some of them are full-time. With your advanced students, it's a blended school model where if they can't fit it into their schedule, they'll come in for one period a day and take that class and then go through the regular schedule. That's how it works. It's right over there.
Yeah, that's the room that we use.
So maybe we could look at possibly in the spring doing, a Bridge the Gap, an informational meeting for the community to see if we can add some value to our own cyber program.
Right, can I tell you what's best in all of it? Because we've done this before.
Yeah.
We've made phone calls, we've put it out there. It's you, all in this audience, okay, that are the ones that need to reach out. You all know people that are in cyber school. You need to reach out. You need to toot our own horn, people. We do not do that enough in this district. We need to say, why are your kids there? Your kids should be here. Why are you sending them there? There's more services here. You need to do it.
When we started, it was like me and 12 teachers, and we each took, and PA Cyber had a lot more of our students than they do now, and we each would call 12 kids, and then we'd switch up who called them because they might relate to the next person that calls you. So we did that for about a month.
Okay. All right, we look forward to working on that. Any other questions?
I remember that.
Okay, we're going to move forward to our school board candidate presentations and question and answer session. First up for this evening, we have Mr. Carpenter. Hi, Mr. Carpenter. Before you start, if you want to speak again, you're welcome to do that.
I spoke a little bit last week. I'd just like to thank the community again for turning out at the levels that we have. It has certainly got my attention that people are paying attention. And I think you're right, Grace. I think communication is the key. It's clear to me that we're well into our resurgence as a community and as a school district. We now need to communicate that and make sure we give our teachers and our students the platform to stay financially viable and so they can do what they need to do. They don't need to worry about that. We need to worry about that, right? But best-in-class schools attract people. They attract real estate agents. Real estate agents will show our community if we communicate the fact that we're giving a best-in-class education. I've seen it, right? So that's all I have to say in addition to what I talked about the last time.
We'll move on to a couple questions.
Sure.
Thank you for that. What do you see as the role and responsibilities of a school board director within the district and the community?
I think I'll back up to what I just hit in on. I think it's our responsibility to carry the financial burdens and some of the decisioning burdens so that the teachers and the students don't have to worry about that. We have serious things that we talked about tonight financially we need to concern ourselves with. We have a major decision to make here in the near future about a replacement for Dr. Welder. These are serious things that I think the community has learned a lot of lessons from over the past 7 to 8 years. And I look forward to making good decisions on that front over the next few years to make sure we build on what we've accomplished here.
One more.
Sure.
If you were given a choice between academic, sports, and extracurricular funding, how would you prioritize and would you be comfortable reducing any of the above?
It's a tough one.
And these are tough questions.
My daughter's an art student and a softball, but you know, she lettered this year. I think that there are difficult decisions with what we talked about that we need to make. I think the first thing that we need to do is look at academics. As we look at the academics and make sure that they have a good financial platform, that the teachers can do what they need to do, we need to pare away as slowly as we possibly can at some of those extracurricular and sports activities. Some of these sports activities are revenue generators, and quite frankly, I think we probably have to look at that. But yeah, those are going to be tough decisions, and I think we need to very slowly look at those and take action on those as a last course of action. I think there are other ways that we can probably pull rabbits out of the hats instead of pulling rugs out of our students, from under our students.
Okay, John. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, Randy Dawson.
Hi folks, thank you for the opportunity to being able to speak to you as an interested party for the school board position. I'm a parent and a leader. I have I have a son that has graduated from the school district. I currently have a freshman in the school district. I've been in the district for over 20 years. I will tell you though, I am not an Ambridge graduate. I'm a Quaker Valley graduate. I moved here due to work. I have been involved in the district very heavily. That goes to Highland PTO, the middle school PTG assistant treasurer, active with the band as far as band boosters. I'm also a paramedic for the band. I've traveled with the band to Florida as that role. So with that said, I have a very strong passion and knowledge for the district, the student, and the schools. I'm looking forward as an individual to help further my challenges as being hopefully one of your future board members with that. As I said, my background not only is in being a paramedic or emergency services, I'm a retired director in public services with Beaver County 911 Center for 28 years. Over and above that, I also run economy ambulance service, back to my paramedic hat, in Economy Borough since 1990. So I deal with financial roles there as the day-to-day operation with that ambulance service. My strong passion, again, is for this district, to move the district forward. You know, some of the things that have been brought up is funding issues and the concerns. I think I have knowledge with some folks in the community to get the word out, to get these folks from charter schools back into here. The other concern is, Mrs. Trimber mentioned it at her recognition meeting, is our image. We've got to fix our image. That's where some of our people we've lost. And that's all I have to tell you about me.
All right, a couple questions.
Sure.
What attributes are essential for a school board director, and which of these do you consider your strengths?
Again, I think it's the leadership role that I would have to knowing the folks in the community and working with the community to get those students back into our district and to, you know, help that municipality make sure they're paying the right municipal taxes to us.
Very good. We just had a little bit of this discussion, but what is your position on cyber charter schools and keeping our students here?
Okay, so having a child that graduated, went through your cyber program, I will truly admit, in his benefit, it was probably the best thing to do at the time, but I think it, as a parent, I think was the worst thing that I did as a parent, by putting him in cyber. The reason being is, he lost all interaction in school. No socialization skills, no communication, lost that leadership role by not coming to school. I believe students should be in school.
Very good.
All right.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, Elizabeth Hawkins.
Good evening, everyone. I'm back. I don't really have too much to add from what I said last week. I would also like to note, though, that I am in about a dozen extra vocational groups involved in different communities. A lot of it overlaps throughout Beaver County, and I'm happy to say that I spent my whole lunch break today at work texting people about some of these meetings that are going on and trying to get the community out so that they know about things, that they are interacting with them. And I'd love any questions you have.
All right. What do you see as the Ambridge Area School District's 3 biggest issues?
First, I would definitely say the financials. As we've witnessed, I guess pretty much every meeting that I've been at recently, it's always come up. I would say definitely image, because when I bought my house, one of the first things my father-in-law said to me was, so what are you gonna do if you have kids and they end up in school? Are you going to send them to Ambridge? Out of just basic concern that what would happen to his grandchildren? Would they actually get the education that they deserve? Third, I would have to say the financials again, because of how pressing it is and how much we depend on that to serve our students.
All right, one more. Give us an example of a time where you had to deal with conflict. What was the situation and how did you handle it?
Last kind of question. I would definitely say, with UPS, one of the major things that I do is damaged packages. And as I'm sure you can imagine, you get a box on your front door, something's not quite right, you have some very irate people that want to talk to you, your supervisor, and the president of your company right now. One of the major things that you can do is to understand where that person's coming from. You have to understand why they're upset. Obviously, it was probably something really important. Recently, we had an engagement ring.
Oh boy.
That was a whole issue in and of itself. You have to understand. You have to listen to what the person's telling you. You can't just interrupt them and try and soothe over, yeah, we know we made a mistake, we're just gonna fix it. You have to understand what they're saying and why they're saying it.
Very good, Elizabeth. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is Bill Metz.
No three-page report this week. First, I want to thank everybody for last week and this week giving me the opportunity to do this again. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I don't got much to say other than from last week, but I'll try to answer your question the best I can. And don't ask me about the charter schools because she's here. I'm not getting in trouble today.
You'll be in the doghouse,
Yes,
right?
I'll be really in the doghouse.
All right, Bill. What do you view as the current challenges facing the Ambridge area school district right now?
I think, you know, it goes back to what everybody keeps saying, it's the communication and getting the word out there and being able to get back in the community and getting those and drawing those people back in to where we need to. I see, you know, I think it comes down to communication. I know it sounds stupid, but it's communication, and getting these kids back to where we need them here. I really do. I think it's just communication.
There's two.
Wonderful. Cool, Bill, sorry.
No, you were ready.
Sneaking out. What professional skills can you bring to the board?
Well, I think I could bring, I'm on the negotiation team. I'm a union steward. I know contracts. I'm also part of the safety board for the Allegheny County, which I could bring safety and certain things like that. You know, stuff like that is what I could bring. I mean, reading contracts, understanding them, and helping out, you know, one way or another. Being impartial too, trying to stay on both sides.
All right, very good. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, Kelly Ramasco.
Hi.
Hello, Kelly.
So I spoke last week, so I don't really have a whole lot more to say. You all know me in some capacity or another for the most part. As a student, as a former teacher, marching band director, volunteer, I've been a coach for the district and for the community. So any questions you have, I'm happy to take. Oh, and congratulations, Mr. Campbell. You guys made a great choice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. Kelly, what motivates you to want to apply as a potential candidate, and why now?
So I think mostly it's for the kids, and not just mine. I mean, I have 4 kids in the district. So of course I want this district to be as good as it possibly can be. But it's all the other kids in the district. You know, I see some of them on the football field or walking home from a game and they need a ride, and I pick them up and I take them home and I hear their stories, and you know, you talk to them after school. I was up at the middle school making some banners and signs, and I talked to a lot of them, and they're in really difficult spots in life. And it's not just here, it's everywhere. But you know, I hear it and I see it all the time, and I just want to do whatever I possibly can while I can for the Ambridge School District and for our kids.
This is a tough one. What is your position on cyber charter schools and retaining our students here?
So I think I talked about it a little bit last week. Even further, you know, sitting here listening to the two of you speak about it, I had a daughter that took a couple classes in cyber school here at Ambridge, and then my son, who's a student up here at the high school, he also takes additional classes. So he's one of the kids that wants to take as many credits as he possibly can. So he enrolled in extra classes online. And it's a wonderful opportunity because not every class fits into your schedule. So he has really excelled in that opportunity, but I really feel like we could do so much more if, you know, everybody was working together and the community was involved and the teachers were involved and you guys and administration. And you know, there's places that offer virtual live instruction online, and there's some of our kids that really, for whatever reason, they need to be online or they want to be half online, but they maybe want a live teacher in front of them on the camera. And we can offer that. There's no reason I would think that we can't do that. And so different ideas like that I think would really help our students is something that I'm very passionate about.
Good, Kelly. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly.
Okay, Tom, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Rattan, is that correct? Tom here this evening? Did you hear anything? No? Okay. Okay. Valerie Young?
I feel like you already know my name, but good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Valerie Young, and I am a resident, a long-term resident, one year my entire life in Ambridge School District. So I wrote a long speech that I was supposed to, but I'm extremely nervous, so please, I apologize if I hesitate.
Okay. I was nervous tonight, too.
I'm nervous, but I just realized I have support. My mom's over there, so I'm okay. I just happened to look and see her, so I know I can do it now. Okay. So I wrote this out and I'm going to explain it to you, and then I'm just going to talk to you. I'm a long-term resident again. I graduated from Ambridge School District, the old school that took up the whole entire block before we got the new big fancy school. I'm a mom of graduates, 2011 and 2015, and I currently have students here, one at the high school and one at the middle school. I love 10th grade and 7th grade. And why I'm interested in becoming a member of this board is to help our students, the residents, teachers, administrators, to be a part of the present, to help the future, and also to recognize the past, to assist in continued success of the educational program within the Ambridge Area School District. And by this, I mean, as a graduate, I take pride in talking about the things I did at the school, the activities I did, the things I did, participated in, and the teachers who recognized and influenced me. Mr. Yurvik was my teacher in Anthony Wayne. I loved him.
Know that name.
The administrators who helped me in situations as far as life is concerned, Mrs. Renee Guerreri, who is still here right now, was amazing. When I was in high school, she started, and I love her to death. Because my children are involved in activities in this district, and I attend many of the events and sports and plays and games, I hear what the parents say. And sometimes all they need is just that ear. I realize that all the issues can't be solved to everyone's liking, but sometimes a listening ear is all that's needed. As administrators, I feel our attendance can make a difference. I would like to be an advocate for positive change within our district. I'm not a transient, but I am a taxpayer that is rooted and grounded within this community. I want to help the present students excel, but also be part of the future coming through the hallways of our schools. I value each member of the board, as I know you all bring something different to the table, and everyone has an interest in what I would think is helping our community grow, but also to be a voice for the students, staff, and people of Ambridge.
Couple questions, okay? What motivates you to want to apply as a potential candidate, and why now?
It actually wasn't just now. I'm thankful for the opportunity now, but I did try to run previously for the elections. I'm currently an employee for Allegheny Health Network in Pittsburgh, and got to the courthouse, and it was after they stated the time frame was to submit my information. So I would like to run now because I feel I can make a difference. I can be an additional ear, an advocate for the board, for, again, the teachers, the administrators, for our students, to continue to help and, you know, be a part of the community and watch it grow.
Give us an example of a time where you had to deal with conflict. What was the situation and how did you handle it?
Dealing with conflict, actually can give you one working here. I used to work downstairs at the front desk, at the door, checking bags. And there was an incident where a male student got into an altercation with a female student. And I had to distance myself because the male student I'm very, very close to. And I had to distance myself and put myself in a situation as a personnel member to walk away because I knew what he did was wrong and watch him be arrested. And knew that what he did was incorrectly, but also to know that I'm here to make sure that all of our students are safe.
Very good, Valerie. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So Mr. Gannanen could not be here today. He was here last week and he sent a statement. And he says, "Thank you for the opportunity to share my presentation with the board at the January 8th meeting. There are reasons not to select me for the current board vacancy. I am not from the Ambridge area originally. Other than Scott Angus, you do not know me, and I am old. The better reason to select me for the current board vacancy are, I am an experienced board member on a local, county, and state levels. I have participated in the selection of a new district superintendent and negotiated the contract. I was on the finance committee when the state cut local funding by over $1 million. I was on the negotiating team for a new teacher contract, and I may be able to provide insight to charter and cyber schools. The above are issues facing the Ambridge Area School District in the near future. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, very good. All right, we will move on to nominations. Yes.
Madam President, I'd like to nominate Valerie Young.
Okay, I have a nomination on the floor for Valerie Young. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other nominations this evening?
I would like to nominate Mr. Dawson.
And do I have a second? Okay. Any other nominations this evening? Okay. Madam Secretary, can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angus,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Ms. Gill,
Yes.
Mrs. Kehoe,
Yes.
Mrs. Mylan,
Yes.
Ms. Pedigo,
Yes.
Ms. Trimber,
I will say yes.
Mrs. Fisher,
Yes.
motion carries.
Very come up. Okay, Valerie Young.
Good candidates. Just wanted to shake your hand.
I, Valerie Young,
Valerie Young,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support,
that I will support,
obey,
and
defend
the
the Constitution
Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and of this
and
Commonwealth,
of this Commonwealth,
and I will discharge
and I will discharge
the duties of my office
the duties of my
with
office
fidelity.
with fidelity.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're going to take your seat as well.
Thank you.
Good answer.
Thank you.
Senior girls, they all went.
I'll make that.
Okay.
Today's going to be so proud.
Thank you. Thank you.
Before we continue on, I would just like to say that these decisions the last few weeks were very, very difficult ones. We had terrific candidates, and it was tough. It was very tough, and I'm sure the rest of the board can agree to come to a decision. And I hope you will all that were here and interested in serving would maybe, Dr. Welter, can you speak again a little bit on your committee?
Yes, it's Key Communicators, and it's open to anyone. You could just call June or email either June or I and get in contact with us. Would be terrific.
Thank you all very much. We appreciate your interest in our children. Moving on. Public comment regarding agenda items only. At this time, district residents may come forward to comment on agenda items only. Each person must state their first and last name and address prior to speaking. Each resident will be allowed 3 minutes and can speak only once. This period for public comment prior to the standing committee reports will be limited to 1/2 hour. Although not required, board members desiring to address questions or concerns may do so after the resident's comment question or at the conclusion of the committee reports. There will still be an opportunity for residents to comment on any business relevant to the Ambridge Area School District under old and new business at the end of the meeting.
So we are here from the cast of the musical.
Hold on, babe. State your.
Oh, I'm Carlina Pavel. I'm a senior.
Okay, I'm Piper Dunlap, I'm a junior.
I'm Meta Indiana. I'm a senior from Ambridge.
We need addresses too, girls. I'm sorry. Addresses.
Oh.
Okay, you do yours, Carlina.
Ambridge, 208 Elm Road, yeah.
Quickly, kind of 104 Drive. I live on 14th Street.
All right.
So they're going to pass out a paper. There's not enough for all of you, but you guys can all share them.
Sure. We can share.
As I said, I'm Carlina Powell. I am a senior lead in this year's musical, and I'm also the dance captain. I'm here speaking for all the students involved with this year's production of The Little Mermaid. All I want to say is that this year's new production team is phenomenal. You guys agree? Yeah. So during rehearsals, I've noticed a constant engagement driven by the directors with the students. They are trained professionals and active performers, and they give us continuous feedback with professional wisdom because they are professionals in the professional industry. They make all the practices fun. I can't think of one so far that hasn't been fun, and always wanting us to come back and learn more. So the paper that I've given out to you are quotes from students that I've compiled up this week. All of these are going to remain anonymous, and I'm going to read them. So much has gotten done. We have choreographed and learned the music so far for so many numbers and still maintain a positive workspace. We got the chance for a change of pace, and we've accomplished quality work without feeling pressured or rushed. The directors give us support and encouraging feedback. Things like the dances are actually getting done well and fast without our choreographer walking out at all. I feel like the music director is getting things done quickly as well, and everything is actually sounding really good. And as for blocking, Jess really knows what she's doing, and the entire team is making this musical extremely fun. I think everything is going smoothly. We have gotten so much done already. The dances are getting done. Our choreographer is a very good teacher as he is walking us through all the steps. I also like our music director. She is moving things along quickly, and we sound very good. Jess is a very good director, and she knows how to block us. I am already having so much fun, and I can't wait for the show. Already everybody is excited again. You can tell that everyone is taking in all the directions we've been given so far, and are having fun with it. It's refreshing to see kids who have never had the opportunity to talking to each other. The new team has been brought in has been so kind and welcoming to us all. I really am having a great time. I love the new dance instructor. He teaches us, helps us, and doesn't just yell at us. I personally feel that a lot of people, just in general, like in the world even, they don't understand how much arts affect students' lives. Me, I've been in the arts for so long, my entire life. I feel that it's so important. The arts as a whole, everything in the arts, from like painting, drawing, the music, everything as a whole are for the misfits. And I don't mean that in a negative way. The misfits are those that can't find a place in this world's big puzzle and don't feel accepted anywhere else. Musical is that welcoming place. Everybody is there for each other. It is a judgment-free zone, and this is where the students can just be themselves. You don't really realize this impact until you've seen it for yourself. I mean, being in this program for so long, I've seen it. It's grown people. They've become a totally different person by the end of the year. In conclusion, as being a part of this family for so long, this change in direction is very impacting to every single student involved, and I'm very excited to see what the show will end up becoming. Thank you.
We are as well.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I am Jennifer Sutson-Fan. I'm addressing as they were number 8 under personnel.
And can you just give your address to?
Yeah, I live in Economy Borough on Mary Reed Road. I have 2 daughters in the district. Heidi is in 8th grade and Zoe is a junior. My oldest daughter has been in the school musical for about 4 years, and since last year I've been serving as the treasurer of the Musical Boosters Board. In the past year I've reconciled years of accounting and have been able to work with the school district to streamline our finances for the musical. We've created a solid budget and provided online ticket sales as a convenience to our audience last year. Over the years I've had the pleasure of working with some awesome parents, volunteers, and talented directors. I want to take a moment to commend our past vocal director and choreographer, as well as the past executive directors, for always putting on an outstanding quality production. My comments here are not about their talents. We all know that change is hard. However, events occur, things happen, and change is inevitable. Having 2 directors quit in the past 4 months has been stressful for everyone. However, in the end, the changes to the musical directing staff have turned out to be an extremely positive event. It is almost as if we didn't know we needed the change, and now that we're experiencing working with the new team, we are so happy to have them. Jessica Patterson has brought fresh new ideas to the program and a positive, proactive spirit to the production along with her directing talents. Lawrence Carl's fresh choreography has the kids challenged and excited about their new moves. And Liz Ambrose's ability to arrange and showcase our students' vocal talents is impressive. The parents of the students in the musical and I have spoken, and most are happy with the changes. The students are happy, and the directors and the rehearsals have been positive and productive. I have 2 statements from 2 other parents that I'll read now. As a parent in our 5th year volunteering and as a support person for the musical, I have a lot of experience watching my child come home from musical practice. I have never seen my child as excited and happy as she is at this point with the new director, choreographer, and music director. She is very pleased with the direction she's being given, the level of overall organization with the new leaders, and the positive feedback given during rehearsals. This is a very good change. I highly encourage the Ambridge School District to complete the hiring of these new musical director positions with Lawrence and Liz. Thank you, and that was from Jean Fritsch. Nicole Pucci gave me the comments of, the students are doing very well with the new directing staff that is in place. They are having fun learning choreography for the upcoming show. The staff seems to have a good rapport with the students. I think the students and parents are pleased with the new staff that is in place. My comments are, in closing, I watched the video of last week's board meeting and was sad to see the negative comments made about the school administration and their staffing decisions regarding the musical. Unfortunately, I think there is some confusion regarding contracts, positions, and payments of the past musical directing staff. I do not believe that anyone was treated unfairly by the school district. As board members, if you have any questions, I urge you to work with the business office to review the past and current contracts of the directors. To summarize, I feel it's important for the board to know that the parents and students are extremely happy with the new changes and with the new directors. And we would all like to move forward with this new team. And we encourage the entire board to come out, attend the performances, and show support for the musical. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Carla Simone Powell. I'm an Ambridge resident at 208 Elm Road. I am also the president of the Musical Booster Board. Thank you for having us here tonight. I have nothing but positive feedback from the parents of the children that are in the musical. This is the first time in quite a few years that we had a meeting actually on a Saturday night and we had a full house. And this is to start building the sets that we're going to start this weekend. But I also watched the video last week, and I just want to clarify some things with how the choreographer has been, I guess, employed or asked to be a musical choreographer. It has never gone through the board. The musical choreographer has always been appointed by the director of the musical and the music director. The choreographer has not been paid by the school district. The choreographer has been paid by the boosters, and this has gone on for more than 20 years. Just a little bit of history from the 9 years that I have been involved in the musical. During the year of Zoozical, the directors went and hired Reach for the Stars Dance Studio. After that year, they did not call Reach for the Stars back, nor did Reach for the Stars receive a letter. The following year, for curtains, they hired a Ambridge alumni, Jessica Patelli. She choreographed Peter Pan, and then during Peter Pan, somehow she disappeared. I didn't see her. And one of the students took over for the choreography. That year, we won a Mancini for the best choreography, and the student was awarded that award. During Adam's Family, Dorsinger Dance Studio was asked to return. Dorsinger stayed from Adams until this year when the person that had hired her had resigned. Just to, I did contact past directors that stayed here for over 20 years, and they also told me this process. They said that the district was never involved in hiring. So I appreciate to see that the choreographer is on the list, and hope that everything goes smoothly with this, and it will be going through the district from now on. So that kind of takes the boosters out, and we can do what's right for the kids and raise funds for them and give them everything that they need. In closing, I just want to say thank you to everyone for the opportunity for our kids to have the musical. Since we really don't have a drama club or any of that in our school district, this is really great. And hopefully this rebuilds it. From the time that I started 9 years ago, there were 80-some kids in it. Today we have 40. So we're hoping that this is a big leap of faith. Thank you, and we hope you all come March 5th through 8th. There we go. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I have to get out of here in like 5 minutes to pick my kids up from gymnastics. But Adriana Cephas, Ambridge, PA. I just want to talk about the recognition and presentation, a couple things under there. One, how do you decide on who gets recognized? Because my daughter won first place in the Martin Luther King oratorical contest for Highland, first place for 4th grade, and I don't see her on here, but I see someone for 12th grade who won the same exact competition. And my baby was representing Highland and Ambridge, which we woo-woo-woo, okay? So my second question is, how come today, although I'm glad Valerie got it, how come today we didn't get to speak on the other candidates who were coming for the school board? Like last week, we actually had an opportunity to speak on them. And I want to say thank you to all you who did come out again and who were new to come out and support the school and the school board. Thank you.
Just on the public comment was welcome. I mean, anybody was able to speak on a candidate if they had.
But you did it after you already, although I'm happy she didn't, but I'm saying you did it
No.
after.
I mean, you know, that was our protocol. Anybody was welcome to speak on someone. That's we're an open book. And Dr. Welter is going to look into. I know I did, and I can the little bit I can speak on. What I presented tonight, I spoke with the building principal, and I know Mr. King can verify that I spoke with Ms. Zupsik on some presentations for this evening. I cannot speak on the elementary part.
I'll reach out to everybody, make sure we capture them all if we miss some other kids.
And I'm proud my baby represented
Congratulations.
Highland. First speech she ever did.
And we apologize for that.
Good luck with moving in.
And we're boring your son, obviously.
Hi, Felicia Mysick. I live in Byersdale. It's a cool little place no one knows about. Of course you do. I just wanted to thank you guys for allowing the Black Student Union to happen here at Ambridge. In the past, you had an African American club or an African club, but I think it's important to know that you, I'm sorry, what was that? I thought someone said something to me. But I want to say that we're in a very mixed area now, and when I grew up around this area, I remember my coaches told me they made like racial jokes. And like I was sitting in the back of the bus, and they made comments about, being like they were like, "What's the difference between like I'm dating myself, Whoopi Goldberg and something else?" And they compared black people to dog poop. And I was in Ambridge my 9th grade year, and I reported it to the only black person I had in the school, which was the school nurse at the time, and she had me talk to the principal. The principal brought me into a room with the coach, and long story longer, all they did was shake my hand and say, "I'm sorry," and that was it. After that, I left Ambridge. I moved to Florida, worked for Disney World. I did all sorts of stuff, and then I came back here and got married to an Ambridger. And now I'm here, and my goal is to make a difference in my own community. So I wanted to point out why it's important to have a club like this. We're in an area where there's Ukrainians, there's Greeks, there's Italians, there's Croatian, there's clubs all over the place. And for you to sit here and say, yes, that we can have a Black Union Club, it's a step towards the light. Is not to isolate, like everybody says, why isn't there like a white holiday or white this or whatever? And I always say that if you say there's a white holiday, then you have to like define what white is. And we've done that. We have Italian, we have the Greek. There's a whole Greek month that Ambridge just got recognized for, you know, and I think the Bellarmises took an award at in Harrisburg. They went down there. So again, I just wanted to tell you, I'm proud to say that Ambridge is taking steps in the right direction. I was here for John over there in Alfred Valley, so it was also to see that glad that the two of them got on. And for those of you who may make a complaint about Black anything, please understand that it is not only for Black students, it's for everybody. And it is a nationally recognized club. So it's not just, oh, these are only for this group of people or only for that group of people. I'm doing my best to be available for our youth in this community. I've offered free time to coach kids at the middle school. I will do it for the elementary school. I do programs all summer long. I will give and give and give if I'm permitted to. But I really want to tell you thank you for doing something like that. And the young lady that you have in charge of that, I will support her from here to tomorrow to make sure that it stays going on. So thank you.
Felicia, thank you.
We recognized Angelina earlier, and I'm looking at Angelina's proud mom. Angelina's the one who started this movement to get this club here at the high school. She's going to be the first president. I am immensely proud of. I've already told her I'm her adopted aunt, and she knows. She's stuck with me forever. I am so proud of her and what she has done. We recognized her a little bit earlier for what she did over the summer with her work with the NAACP and leadership, but she has made such forward progress, and she is a bright, shining light in our community. So, and I give full credit to her mom. So I'm going to give a shout out to her right there. So extra recognition.
Anyone else?
Ditto.
No? Okay. Okay. Any, no other comments? All right.
Wait, I did one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is there a comment? Okay.
Angelina Bratton's mother, and she is the person who founded.
Tell your name
Oh, I'm Tracy Bratton.
and your address.
I don't like everybody knowing.
Or just
I live
in general,
Ambridge,
streets.
Kerr Street. Over yonder. My daughter is the founder of the Black Student Union. She went through a lot to get this founded. She has worked her butt off for this. She deserves this. The Black kids of the Ambridge Area School District deserve something for them. As Felicia said, there's something for everybody, but there wasn't something for them. I'm going to make a comment, and it's probably going to offend people, but this needs to be said. Part of the reason that the kids are going to cyber schools and charter schools, there is a stigma with the Ambridge Area School District not addressing the hate speech, the racism. They are not addressing the racial slurs. My daughter has had stuff happen to her that has not been addressed. Clear from the 8th grade, there was an incident. I feel that it was shown that it was a racial issue, that she still had to take the lesser of two evils. Up until last year, this year, she gets called names every day, and guess what? It's part of her everyday life. And as her being this student and the founder of the Black Student Union, I hope that my child's voice is heard, because I promise you mine's louder. If hers isn't, mine will be heard. This has to stop. If you guys want people to come here, you have got to make these things a punishable offense. These racial slurs, these comments, it has to be addressed. It should not be a part of anybody's everyday language. My daughter's name, her name is Angelina Bratton. There's no other name she should ever be called. And there's no name that a white kid who's a good athlete should get away with calling her and shouldn't be punished because of it. And with her being the founder of the Black Student Union, I hope that she finds a way to find resolve. And that's part of the reason that she founded this, is because they all go through it together. And it's always brushed under the rug. And she's here to pull that rug back, and I'm here to help her. So that's where you begin to problem solve, to get people to come to the district. Be proactive instead of reactive.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank
I would just like to speak on that as mother and, you know, board president, tell you that when I look at children, I see a child. My going forward, and I think we all feel as a board that we will do everything and anything we can to support and promote and be a part of that not happening. And thank you for speaking up.
Hi, Vicky DeBoe of Ridge Road, Harmony Township. And to go on those lines that you guys were talking about, that's bullying. Bullying is simple. Well, it's racial profile, but it's still being a bully.
End of the day.
So I was at the meeting last week, and I was a little shocked and very disappointed in what I saw. And it was bullying on the board. And that really shocked me. We wouldn't accept that from our students. We wouldn't accept it in the workplace. We wouldn't even accept it in prisons.
I'm sorry, it's not an agenda item, so it would have to be.
So I gotta wait till the end. That's what I thought.
Sorry.
I'll be back.
Sorry. Anybody else? Okay, moving on to committee reports. Education and Technology, Ms. Trimber.
I'd like to make a motion.
She should read that.
Okay. First, the points of information is kindergarten registration will be held on February 10th through the 12th, 2020 from 7:30 to 2:30 p.m. at the following locations. February 10th is at Highland Elementary, February 11th at Economy Elementary, February 12th at State Street Elementary. Evening appointments are available March 3rd from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the High School Media Center, March 10th from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the High School Media Center. If you have any questions, please call Kathy Hopkins at 724-266-2833, extension 1273, to schedule an appointment. The Beaver County Arts Education Consortium is proud to sponsor annual Band Day on Friday, March 13th, 2020. They're hosting this event will be Ambridge Area's BCAEC Steering Committee Representative Todd Hartman. The event will be from 8:30 a.m. to 1:45 in the High School Bridger Theater and Music Suite. Clinicians from the River City Brass Band, Slippery Rock University, and other professional freelance musicians will conduct master classes for high school woodwind, brass, and percussion students from the BCAEC member districts. They will also be responsible for all expenditures associated with this event.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Ms. Trimber.
Then I'd like to make a motion for items 1 through 9.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Yes. Ms. Young?
So Doug.
She just
She's not
Don't
used to
start
it.
with it.
Okay, sorry.
Doug, can you just explain a little bit while we go through?
Okay. Sorry. All right, Mr. Angus?
Yes.
Mr. Carry Long?
Yes.
Ms. Gill?
Yes to all except items 3 and 4. I'm voting no to those because I have not read those. Mr. Felsen, can you just wait just a second because I have something really important to say? I'm voting no to those because I have not read those discipline agreements, and I'm not going to ratify anything that I haven't read. I'm also making a note that I concur with the statements that have been said in here tonight. What has been brought to me by law enforcement, court officials, and other members of the community is that there appears to be grave concerns with regards to the disciplinary process and the meting out of discipline in the school. I'm going to be raising some motions at the end in new business to address that, but I will not at this time in good conscience ratify any disciplinary agreement.
Bless you.
Mrs. Kehoe?
Yes.
Mrs. Mylan?
Yes.
Ms. Pettigo?
Yes.
Ms. Trimber?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Wait, did you do Mrs. Young?
No.
Mrs. Young?
I abstain.
Moving on to finance and budget, Ms. Pettigo.
Thank you, Mrs. President. So I call for the adoption of items 1 through 8 in finance and budget this evening.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Young?
Abstain.
Mr. Angus?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Ms. Gill?
Yes.
Mrs. Kehoe?
Yes.
Mrs. Mylan?
Yes.
Ms. Pettigo?
Yes.
Ms. Trimber?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Moving on to building and grounds, we have nothing to report this evening. Athletics, Ms. Trimber.
I'd like to make a motion for items number 1 and 2.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Angus?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Ms. Gill?
Yes.
Mrs. Kehoe?
Yes.
Mrs. Mylan?
Yes.
Ms. Pettigo?
Yes.
Ms. Trimber?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, public relations, Ms. Gill.
Mrs. Gill.
Nothing this evening.
Okay, steering and rules, Mrs. Kehoe.
I'd like to move for the adoption of items 1 through 4.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Young?
Abstain.
Mr. Angus?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Ms. Gill?
Yes.
Mrs. Kehoe?
Yes.
Mrs. Mylan?
Yes.
Ms. Pettigo?
Yes.
Ms. Trimber?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, moving on to legislative, Mrs. Kehoe.
I'd like to move for the adoption of item number 1.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Young?
Abstain.
Mr. Angus?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Ms. Gill?
Yes.
Mrs. Kehoe?
Yes.
Mrs. Mylan?
Yes.
Ms. Pettigo?
Yes.
Ms. Trimber?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, salary schedule and labor relations, nothing to report this evening. Personnel, Mr. Angus.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion for items 1 through 10 as amended.
1 through 9.
1 through 9, what, did we add number 10 earlier?
We did, and we
Okay, all right, sorry. Items 1 through 9 as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Ms. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Angus?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Ms. Gill?
I vote yes to all except item 8. And I'm going to say, you know, as a musical theater participant all through high school and one of those misfits, I'm voting no based on the process, not based on the outcomes. I'm thrilled that we have great outcomes, and I cannot wait for this presentation because I love The Little Mermaid. But I think that as an educator myself, I would be remiss in rewarding improper procedures or miscommunications or misinformation, which is how it came to the board. We did not have correct information. And so like I said, I'm thrilled that we're going to have a great musical. I can't wait. I will be there opening night with bells on, but I am voting no based on the way that the process was handled out, and I look forward to the changes that we can make to make sure that this never happens in the future.
Mrs. Mylan?
I vote yes for everything except I abstain from the vote for my daughter who is a volunteer choreographer.
Okay. Ms. Pettigo?
Yes.
Ms. Trimber?
Yes to all items except for number 8, and once again, it's based off of the information that was provided to us, how the process was. I want to say I heard those students very loud and clear tonight, and I do look forward to seeing the musical. So I'm all about what's in the best interest of the students. It was the process and how things were handled. It was nothing against the students or anything like that. Like I said, I'm all about what's in the best interest of students, and I heard them very loud and clear tonight. So no to number 8, just
Mrs.
because of the
Fisher?
process.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Solicitors report?
No report this evening.
Thank you. Superintendent's report?
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Dr. Walter?
Wait, we
Oh,
need to back up.
Nobody called me in the roll call.
Oh, my goodness. Jude?
Oh, and the last one, Mrs. Kehoe.
I am going to vote yes, but I do have some concerns over item number 8. Not the people, it's the process, but I will vote to yes on everything.
That has nothing to do
And motion carries.
Just a little point of information, we have already talked about it as a board that we will be reviewing the process and how it will be handled in the future. So, thank you for your patience. Okay, moving on to old and new business. It is now time for old and new business. Any district resident who desires to comment on any business relevant to the Ambridge Area School District should now come forward. Each person must state their first and last name and address prior to speaking. Each person will be allowed 3 minutes and can speak only once.
Madam President, I have 2 motions that I want to raise.
Okay?
The first motion would be to create a disciplinary committee. Other school districts have a disciplinary committee, and I think that we need one to review policies, to review to review sanctions. Most of you know I'm a criminal justice professor at Penn State Beaver. One of my research areas is juvenile delinquency and juvenile justice. I actually used agenda items from this board in my class in the fall when we had like 9 consent decrees and disciplinary things. And I took it into my classroom and I said, what do you guys see? And their immediate question was, what is going on at that middle school? So when my students can identify that there's a need, I think that certainly parents and teachers and community leaders are seeing that there's a need. This is in line with what other school districts have, so I'd like to raise a motion to create a disciplinary committee here for the Ambridge Area School District.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Any other discussion from anyone else? Roll call, please.
Okay, Ms. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Angus?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Ms. Gill?
Yes.
Mrs. Kehoe?
Yes.
Mrs. Mylan?
Yes.
Ms. Pettigo?
Yes.
Ms. Trember?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. And I would like to speak upon this and ask that Ms. Gill be appointed as the committee chair for this committee.
I will accept that nomination.
Thank you. Did you have something else, Ms.?
I did. I didn't know if you needed to do something.
Okay.
Will we be present? I'm so sorry. Will we be presented with like a perspective on how everything is going to run and just like the logistics?
Correct.
Yeah.
And she can work with Megan on.
Correct, and because there is, and just so that the folks in the audience know that are here and who are watching on camera, because this stuff, a lot of the content here will be confidential because we are dealing with juveniles who are possibly in the juvenile system. We will not be able to give total carte blanche access to everything, just as a way of working with the legal system. So I'll be working very closely with the solicitor on that. My next motion that I would like to raise is that for the first act of that committee, for the committee to conduct both a qualitative and quantitative analysis of those consent decrees and expulsion agreements that have happened over the course of the past 3 years. We need to look and see if there's any particular trends with regards to area, race, socioeconomic status, gender, etc. We need to get to data and statistics. And so that is what I recommend the first step of this committee to do.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, roll call, please.
Ms. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Angus?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Ms. Gill?
Yes.
Mrs. Kehoe?
Yes.
Mrs. Mylan?
Yes.
Ms. Pettigo?
Yes.
Ms. Trember?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Anything else, Ms. Gill?
No, I'm good.
Anybody else like to speak?
Cut off.
Now, Vicky DeBona, Ridge Road, Harmony Township.
And I just need to clarify that it's on district business only.
Yeah.
Okay.
First, I was here last week. I saw the meeting, and what I saw basically shocked and very much disappointed me. And that was bullying on your board. And it was a bullying of one director to another. We sat here, we talked about not bullying the children. They don't allow bullying in schools. They don't allow bullying in the workplace. They don't allow bullying in the prison system, because I worked there. So it should be a no bully zone. If this person has to be a bully against another person, maybe she shouldn't be on the board. And
I'm sorry, Vicki, we're committed to trying to keep a professional atmosphere.
exactly, so why are you permitting bullying is my point.
I'm not permitting anything.
If you're sitting there and listening to somebody call another board member names, you're permitting it. You're just as guilty as the perpetrator. And on number 8, if you're a volunteer, you don't need to be voted on. They have clearances, you don't have to vote on a volunteer. I volunteered for years.
I just want to clarify that I have had conversation as the board president with the entire board on the whole situation, and we are in agreement to move forward as a unified board.
Yes.
All right, if I keep coming and I see bullying, I'm gonna get mad. I'm just saying it right now. You shouldn't talk down to any of your members. Be professional.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Roger Cole, Autonomy Borough. A couple of questions I have that been brought to my attention. We have some coaches that have been starting GoFundMe pages and collecting money for their organizations using the Ambridge School District's name. Do we have any policies concerning where this money's going and how we're using it? Can anybody just get on there and start trying to raise money on a GoFundMe situation?
I have a policy sitting on my desk in progress because it's just kind of come to light that we need to look into it.
Okay. Second question, did you come up with any decisions on the ATM machine that they wanted to put here at the school? That was supposed to be on the agenda for this month, but it doesn't seem to be made.
So Scott informed me that there is a letter and he needs to forward it to me. I'm sorry, he needs to forward it to me for us for discussion.
And the third thing is, since we have a budget crisis coming up in the near future, and everybody knows that Butler pulled out of the WPIL on their football team so they can try to restructure their program and get more kids to come out. Have you decided to look at it down here at Ambridge to see, because the amount of kids that go out for the team doesn't justify the section that we're in, so to speak, because we can't compete at that level with only 20 kids and half of them are in 9th grade.
I can address that, Mr. Kowal. I just had a meeting last week with all the superintendents in the county. And we had a representative, the North Hill superintendent, he sits on that committee, and we spent probably 3 hours talking about the dilemma of us not having enough kids on teams. Officials are a huge, huge issue, and how to restructure even what's been scheduled. That came up, but there were a lot of roadblocks in that process, so it is something that we're talking about. The next meeting that they're going to have, they're going to bring in some of the ADs in the county and talk a little bit further. But pulling out of WPIAL creates other problems, because then you have to create schedules with other teams, and that's difficult to do. So we actually spent 3 hours identifying all the issues and not coming up with a lot of solutions. But the next step, I think we will come up with some solutions. So we're talking about it.
And I'd like to add to that and say I would prefer to have community input on that as well. So my suggestion would be to get a survey out and possibly a meeting, in my opinion, to get
I think
input
another
from community
suggestion is the
members.
fact that I think you guys need to look at.
I just want to comment. I did reach out to members of the community wanting to know their opinion, what they thought about it, because, you know, yes, Butler is doing it this year, but previously in the past, this is something I've kind of stayed up on, was Albert Gallatin School District had pulled out and had reorganized and regrouped, rebuilding their football team. So I presented that information to some people, wanted to see what their thoughts were. Several people told me that they do not want to see us pull out of the WPIL, that there are things that we need to do here, and such as coaching.
I just think that by pulling out of out of the WPIL will send a message to the WPIL officials, because the reason we don't have the kids that we have is because they all pull out and go across the river, or they go to a charter school or wherever when we get good players. And the WPIL allows it. You know, that we have these hearings and the WPIL says, oh, it's just fine. So what it's doing in Ambridge, it's killing our program, because anybody we get here that's any good, they just go somewhere else so they can compete on another team. And I think what needs to be done is more schools like us need to address this problem with the WPIL. The reason we're doing it is because of you, because of their behavior of not making those kids stay here in the district and compete for us. And the last thing.
Mr. Cole, I actually talked to a PIAA official about that, and one of the reasons, exactly with that question, I asked, why is it that you don't go after these kids that you know move for athletics? And they said to me exactly the same problem other people have is economics. It will cost us more money to chase down the kids as they all switch around, and we simply don't have it. So, I mean, you're right, we're all kind of suffering from that, and I don't disagree with you, but.
Well, the WPIL needs to deem them ineligible, and that's the end of it. You don't get to transfer for any reason, because you need to stay here. We had kids, the basketball team, the one kid, when I went to the hearing, he went over to Aliquippa, and the kid never lived in Aliquippa. He lived right over here across the street. Every morning, got in his car and drove over to Aliquippa. So, who got punished? By Ambridge. And the last thing is, we need to look at all our athletic programs that we have. You only have so many athletes in a school. You can't have 37 programs and have them all be successful. And right now, when you're looking at things that money-wise, you need to restructure how many sports you're going to have here. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
My name is Naisha from Lynn's Avenue. I graduated here. I'm not that old. I went to school with a couple people in the room. I would like to thank you first and foremost for starting this disciplinary committee. It's really needed. I would like to thank you for approving the African American Club. It is really, really needed. Those two issues are why you're losing so many residents. I bought a house 2 years ago here. I was 3 seconds away from moving, despite the fact that my mother lives on Olive Lane. My daughter sneezes, she's kicked out of class. Just happened yesterday. Today, 3 lovely teachers here in the district, here at the high school, were nice enough to stop my daughter from getting jumped in the parking lot. I'm very, very black. My daughter is interracial. Children are targeted. I'm standing here before you right now, having a panic attack. Because today my child was almost jumped by 3 students on school district property. Maybe if we can get the disciplinary committee in line, we can stop parents from enrolling their children in different districts because you live across the street from them. I live across the street from somebody that goes to Quaker Valley. They pay $14 grand a year for their child to go to Quaker Valley, so their child is no longer subjected. My child has been called the N-word at least 4 times in the last month. Other child has not even gotten detention. I've been here my entire life. Went to Anthony Wayne. Once upon a time, I was a substitute nurse right here in Ambridge. I was approved by the board. And then I worked through E-Kids here as a substitute nurse as well. I know a lot of the kids. I'm always at work. I never see any of you. But I live on Lynn's Avenue, and I listen to it all. Maybe if we can solve those 2 major things, we can get everything together. It's just not my child.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ma'am, thank you so much for your comments, and I can assure you we will, as a board, be reaching out to the building principal for some resolution.
Can I say a word about that? I'm Ronnie Miller. I live in Carmi in Sunset Hills. I appreciate your thoughts there very much. I moved into the district probably about 7 years ago. I have 5 children right now. 1 graduating this year right here in the room tonight. A lot of disciplinary problems actually begins in the home. It begins in the home and how they're being raised. And I have a firm faith in a lot of things. My children, when we sit down at our table every night and eat, so many times my kids tell me how they've helped people, help other students. It starts at ground zero. It starts with the kids helping the kids sticking up for the kids. And when they see, they got to be taught that though. Well, my kids, I teach them to interact. I teach them discipline. I teach them obedience. And a lot of these things, these children are lacking that. They're lacking that discipline, whether it's at home. And I commend the teachers in their roles they have today. They can't just teach. They have to discipline too. But you know what? This disciplinary board, I think, is a really, really needed and good thing. The thing is, it's going to be like a can of worms. It's going to go through a process. And we can't expect to solve every problem quickly, but the thing is to take that first step and take the right steps. And know it starts in the community. It starts in the home. That's ground zero. And when the home starts growing properly and has a good, how could I say, foundation. Okay, I'm a block layer, bricklayer. I believe in foundations and building good walls, not bad walls. But I highly recommend that be done, and as soon as possible too. And you could cover a wide range of problems with this thing. And I know I have one child lives right real close to me, and she is so troubled right now. She's being torn apart, and it's not always her. It's not her. It's how she's being raised too. And we have to identify that, and that's a part of the board. That's the part of the disciplinary board that's going to be tough. That's going to be the hard part for you to try to. You got to rebuild it in the home, and then once it starts in the home, and when it starts there, and I say a complete person is mind, body, and spirit. You can have a great mind, you can have a great body, but you need a spiritual side too, and a lot of that's lacking in our communities today. So, my hat's off to that, and I'm behind anybody that wants to start that. And you get Ronnie Miller on your side, you got a good man. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying something. When I get fervent about something and it's important, that's a very important issue. And I hope the board really moves forward with this quickly.
We will peel the onion back, sir.
But I just hope I brought some wisdom there on where the real, you got to start at the root.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Elizabeth Hawkins, Economy. I was wondering if there's an update. I spoke a month ago asking what the procedure is going to be for finding a new superintendent, if the public would be involved, and if the board is committed to transparency. Since it's been a month now and we still haven't heard an update, is there anything with the end of the school year coming up in 5 months, kind of an urgent issue?
So we are in the rough process right now. We will put some more information out as we come to some conclusions. As soon as we can, we talked about a survey, and I would like to maybe put something on the website for some feedback.
So it would be before the end of the school year we would have one, because that's still only 5 months to get through this process.
I think it's the objective of the board to have, to the extent that we can identify a great candidate who...
It is the objective, or it is the resolve of this board that there will be a superintendent for the next school year?
I'm the lawyer, so I say objective, but I'm sure resolve would be the politically, more operative word that they would use to have a new superintendent identified before the end of the year. The difficulty being that we don't always know what contractual obligations or commitments that person who ultimately will be identified is bound to. So there's always a little bit of give and take in that regard. But it is my understanding that it's the resolve of this board to identify and to make an offer to.
All right, I'll be ready for the same answer in a month.
Anybody else? Okay. Motion to adjourn and return to executive session. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.